It's Tuesday, isn't it?
Did I ever tell you when I was little, my mom used to be like super paranoid about us getting sick, and anytime we would like sneeze or cough or do anything, she would just take us in because she was just like terrified. I swear, she was just terrified that something horrible was gonna happen to us. So she would take us in for everything.
So literally, bro, you and Brandon would sneeze, or Brandon would sneeze, and then literally your mom would be like, hey, what's going on in here? And then
Dead
automatically you guys had masks in the clinic. My children are dying.
For real, she would do that. I'm not even playing. You can ask her. And she was like really obsessed about making us get our flu shots. Since I moved out, I was 16 or 17 when I moved out. I have not gotten a single flu shot, dude.
Yo, maybe I don't want to get the flu shot. You know?
Yeah.
It's like maybe I am scared of needles. No, I just
I'd be like, I'll get a tattoo or a piercing, but anyways, the reason I brought it up though is because Gypsy Rose Blanchard got released from prison yesterday. So we obviously have to talk about it.
We do, bro. We do. This is like something you can't believe is actually real. It's more like stuff you see in the movies, something you read in a book.
Yeah, there's no way around it, to be honest. Like, it's like a Lifetime movie, dude.
It's like a Stephen King novel, dude.
Really, it's something that's like not believable. So the first time I heard of it, I know back in the day when the case and the murder and everything was actually going on, I was like in my own little world, dude. We had all just, it was year 2 in Arizona. We were just partying our livers away and just having the time of our lives. I don't even remember it happening. That's the worst part. I don't remember anything up until the Hulu show called The Act came out. And that was when I was like, oh, this might be kind of interesting. So then I watched the show and I did more research on her and I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, this is real life? Like, you don't think that stuff like this actually can happen, which who knows how common it actually is? Because
dude, it's super common, bro. I'll be real with you. Jesus listens to like a lot of crime podcasts and then a lot of crime shows. And then it's like actual, what are they called? Like when they're interviewing them. You know what they're called? Interrogations.
Interrogation, yeah. Okay.
I watch a lot of those, and I never knew her name until recently, but I had seen that case a bunch of times because it always comes up like, you know, on the top 10 and like craziest interrogations or top 10 moments where, you know, it takes a twist. And, you know, I didn't, like I said, I remember the name, but I remember that one was a little crazy because it just sounds so unreal.
So we'll kind of start from the beginning here, okay? So Gypsy Rose's mom, who her name was actually Claudine, but everyone knows her as Dee Dee Blanchard. Her and this guy named Rod, they're like young. So I can't even remember what their age difference was, but it was something like this guy was like 17 and she was like 24 or something. Like their age difference was a bit like shouldn't have been sleeping with this guy most likely. You know, I don't want to say anything more, but it's another one of those cases like we covered last week, right? So they get together. She ends up getting pregnant. And then he realizes, like, he was a kid and he's married to this older lady who's probably acting like a bit wild. I don't know. So she gets pregnant. He eventually leaves and whatever. And then
it's like wild. I call it manipulative. No, I'm just
yeah, that too, manipulative. Well, she ends up having this baby. And then from the research I've done and stuff, like as early as 3 months old, I think she said, is when she actually like started saying like, oh, she's sick. Like, what are we going to do? She's sick, blah, blah, blah. And started going with it right away. So this lady, this mom, you guys, Dee Dee, she lies to the world basically and says, well, my daughter's sick. She has this and she has that. Keep in mind that Dee Dee was like, she wasn't a nurse, but she was like a nurse's assistant or something in her life before she had Gypsy Rose. So she knew like medical terminology and stuff enough to like pass off that she really knows the medical stuff that's going on with Gypsy Rose and make people believe that this is truly happening.
That'd be like you with the dog packs.
Exactly. Like if I were to pretend that my dog had some illness or whatever, I could probably, give some
Cooper,
terminology.
start limping. Start
Yeah,
limping.
or
Okay.
limping dude. Yeah, right. You could teach him a trick. Boom, done. Well, the this Dee Dee lady pretends that her daughter has everything under the sun. So it's not just like she said, oh, she has a cold a couple times, right? She said all kinds of stuff that she had, like muscular dystrophy, epilepsy, as far as leukemia, dude. She said that she was vision impaired, hearing impaired, and that she had like the mind of like a young child, like a 7-year-old or something like that. And they eventually diagnosed this Dee Dee lady with Munchausen's via proxy. So it's different because some people Munchausen's is a very I don't know. I don't want to like use the wrong words here when describing it.
Because I honestly, Miranda, I don't know what that is. What do you know? Do you know what that is, or should I look?
So
it up?
yeah, it's basically like a psychological condition, so to say, where the person who has it like pretends to be sick or like deliberately or on purpose, like produces symptoms of some kind of illness, mainly to like just pretend to be sick. Like that's really what they do. But what they're saying Dee Dee had is Munchausen syndrome, like by proxy, which means that she's just doing it to someone else. And it's typically a caretaker will have this, and usually like for a kid or something, I think like the most common thing is actually for a mother to do it. So that's what they said she had, but she was never like actually formally diagnosed because she ends up dead at the end of the story, right?
Yes.
So she makes it out to seem that like Gypsy Rose has all these hardcore diseases. She's not just making up tiny little things. And it starts like way, 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 way back in the early 2000s. So Gypsy Rose Blanchard, she's actually older than I am by like 3 years. So this is happening like while we're kids. We're all kind of growing up in the same time, just a couple years older than us.
Yeah.
So think of it that way. So here's where during the trial and stuff, things started to get a little fishy, right? Because people are saying, okay, well, was Gypsy Rose aware of this stuff and she was kind of playing the system too? Or is she totally innocent in all of this? And she was a victim. That's where people started going crazy when the whole initial case was going on. You guys can form your own opinion of it, but here's the facts that we know.
It's like at the end of the episode, we'll tell you guys
what we think. Yeah. So let's just start. I pulled up a timeline per usual, dude. I tried my best on this one, but there's a lot of shit that happened that because one party is gone, we have to listen to it from like just what documents and what a child would have said at the time, So
yeah, so it's a perspective that.
Yeah, and so we do have like some paper documents and some things that they couldn't have been falsified or changed at all, but some of the other stuff is just he said, she said. So we'll kind of go from there. So let's start way back October 2005. Hurricane Katrina happens. Hurricane Katrina actually like took out Dee Dee and Gypsy Rose's house in Missouri. Or no, sorry. It took out their house in New Orleans and then they moved to Missouri. My bad. I like said it backwards.
Damn, bro. So this ties into our Katrina episode?
Yeah.
Wild.
So like all our episodes
Crazy.
come together, right? So it destroys their house. And then at this time, right, Dee Dee is claiming like, oh, like all of Gypsy Rose's medical records were ruined from the flood. But she has leukemia. She has muscular dystrophy. She's fully paralyzed from the waist down. She has to be in a wheelchair, blah, blah, blah.
What a coincidence. Oh.
Right? And because of all of her medical records are destroyed and she's moved somewhere completely different, people are just like, oh, okay, like why would you take your child in and say they have leukemia, please treat them? If they didn't have leukemia, right? That's like the last thing you would think that some person would lie about.
And then it's cancer. It's like the most expensive medical treatment too.
Hell yeah, it is. But this is why people always thought Dee Dee was just doing some kind of like money scheme type of thing too. Because she's getting a lot of free stuff, right? She's a single mom. Her daughter has all these quote unquote health issues. So, she's getting hella benefits from wherever she's at,
Oh, for sure.
She's not working, so she's getting the benefits of being a caretaker for this kid. Plus, probably.
Even the house they moved to, I heard that there's an association that helps out, low income housing people and
so
also people that are sick. They're called Habitat for Humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus actually used to work for them. Maybe.
Did you?
Yeah, a couple years back.
I didn't know that.
We did a couple like 5-6 houses for them.
That's really cool. I didn't know that you did that. Well,
Yeah, it's just donations.
is it just people who donate and it just
No, companies just donate their work.
Oh, companies. Okay. So they actually, after their house got destroyed, I don't know where they lived in the meantime because that was in 2005. So they end up moving to Missouri, right? Then Habitat for Humanity, like you just said, ends up building a house for them. Not only was it just like a basic ass house, dude. This was a house. Like it was a pink house because that was her favorite color, and it had like so it had like a wheelchair ramp. It had all kinds of stuff, and it had like a jacuzzi tub. And they said it was for her muscles because she had muscular dystrophy and all this stuff. So that's crazy, right? Not only does this happen, but things like Make-A-Wish Foundation did stuff for her. They sent her to it was Disney World or Disneyland, I can't remember. So she does that.
Disneyland, I think.
She got to meet like the cast of the Lord of the Rings, dude. She got to meet Miranda Lambert and Blake Shelton because they were married at the time. And Miranda Lambert and Blake Shelton gave her a check for like $3,500 or something. So she's getting, so she's getting all these donations based on all these diseases, right? And then we flash forward to one of her neurologists. This is like 2007 and 2009-ish time. Doctor, I had to write it down, Bernardo Flasterstein. I probably didn't say that right, but you can get the spelling from it. He literally like did tests on her and he started questioning it because he's like, there's literally no evidence of this. This is a healthy child. Like besides all the bad shit that's happening to her, from being on all these medications, like this is a healthy kid. So he starts being like, something ain't right.
He's like, what's going on here? What's going on here?
And it wasn't only him. So when people started doing research and digging into this case, it turns out back in 2009, another doctor had called the police and said that he could not find any symptoms of what like Dee Dee said was wrong with Gypsy Rose. He said something's really not cool. And then it turns out Dee Dee had taken Gypsy Rose to over 150 different doctors over all those years because people would get sus and start questioning things. So she would just leave and go to another doctor and pretend she never went because there's not like a general database for medical records. You have to say, oh, well, I actually went to Dr. Jesus over at this place. And then they have to call, get the medical records sent over. So she's lying and saying, oh, all my medical records, they were destroyed. So we just started going to this one. And she has this and this. These are the treatments she's gotten. These are the medications we've been on. We just need a refill. But like all this crazy shit, dude.
Damn, so she was, I mean, if you know how you're putting it, she was purposely drugging her child.
Mm-hmm. She was intentionally doing it.
Oh, man.
So then there's interviews with, because we talked about it kind of at the beginning, like where's the dad and all this,
Yeah.
He had left. He had gotten remarried. He has a stepchild. And he had tried reaching out to Gypsy Rose a couple times. But according to everything, like Dee Dee did not want him to be part of this. Because she's like, he left. He didn't care about you. He left because you were sick. And he doesn't want to take care of a sick kid. All this stuff. So then we come back to 2000. We come forward. We go 2011. This is where Gypsy Rose said, like, that she had tried to run away because this is the other thing, is that because of the organization she was part of and all her illnesses and stuff that she, quote unquote, had, she was part of all these big conventions. Like they were flying her out because they're like, oh, this kid, is paralyzed, but look at her, she's in such high spirits and she's gonna die, but Miranda Lambert gave her money, and like, so she's going out to all these conventions. So when she's there,
she's basically becoming like a little star in the like sick community, I guess.
Yes. So they go out to this convention in 2011 and she met a man. I don't have information about this man yet, or at all at this point, but this is just a story from Gypsy Rose. She had said that she like met this man at one of these conventions and she tried to run away with him. But this is when Dee Dee like actually caught her and then apparently like destroyed her phone and computer and then chained her to a bed and put like bells on all the doors so that if she even opened them, they would ding, and so she couldn't do anything. And at this point, Gypsy Rose is like getting older and starting to realize, like, I thought I was paralyzed, so like, why are my legs moving? why can I wiggle my toes? Why can I walk?
Why can't I stand up? Like,
yeah,
wrong?
Like if I'm paralyzed, how come I can run? Like, what? This is weird. This is weird,
And then the worst part is that you walk downstairs and like your mom's not even like, where's your wheelchair? Like,
So if you watch the show on Hulu, The Act, it actually shows parts where she's like starting to realize like, why the fuck can my legs work? Like my mom said, I'm paralyzed. My mom said I have muscular dystrophy. So she started like lying to her and being like, you're gonna die if you walk. You're gonna die. Like stop doing this. And she was really like, so I don't understand. Which I'm gonna Google it right now. Actually, is I'm not with Munchausen's. I'm not sure. Does the person who's pretending to be sick like understand that they're pretending, or do they truly believe that like they have
Miranda,
that
this
illness?
is something that we're gonna tie in another episode. What Braden talks about. It's literally emotional manipulation. You tell someone, let's say you tell someone, they're sick their whole life, and then maybe when they're 15, 16, when their brain starts to think for themselves, they're like, am I sick? Or this is just something my mom's been telling me. And then, like you said, she started walking and running, and she's like, I feel pretty good, cancer isn't beating me. And then like after all that, she meets that man, tries to get away, and it just sounds like she became a prisoner.
Yeah, she did, because it's like as soon as she realized and was old enough, which here's another kicker, is you start thinking like, we kind of talked about it a second ago where I said medical professionals started to like actually call the authorities and be like, well, goddamn, this lady says her kid has 20 different types of diseases, but the blood work is proving that none of that's true. This kid is healthy.
This kid has high cholesterol.
Yeah. This kid has nothing wrong besides the fact that she's been sheltered her whole life. So where the fuck what was I doing? My ADHD kicked in hard, dude, because I saw you bite that popsicle stick. What did you say right before I said that? With manipulation.
Yeah.
You're saying something about that.
Emotional manipulation. She's been told.
I remember what I was gonna say now. So the doctors thing is where I was gonna go to, and then it was gonna tie in. So with the doctors, some of them started calling and being like, "Wait, this is sus." But it really brings into question like why we even go to the doctor as much as we do, because if it took out of 150 medical professionals, only 2 of them came forward to say like something's not right, like this kid's not sick. 150 doctors and only 2 of those came forward to say, I don't think this kid is sick. That's crazy. But the only documents that were actually like proven to be like falsified was her age. And is because Dee Dee lied because she would tell people like, oh, she thinks she's 14. Like, so the dad did say that one time on her 18th birthday, he had called to say happy birthday to her. And then Dee Dee talked to him and was like, she thinks she's only 14, because of her mental illness and blah, blah, blah. So you just keeps a lie because she doesn't know she's 18. So just say happy birthday, like whatever. So then she had falsified her age to be like a lot younger than she was so that she could keep telling people like, oh, my child, my little girl, my baby, she's dying. And then Gypsy Rose, at this point, she's been chained up to things for so long and being drugged against her will that she has no idea what's going on. So she's just tied up in a wheelchair thinking she's paralyzed. But it's just wild. And I did actually Google it about the Munchausen thing because I didn't think about it before.
Yeah.
And it says people with Munchausen syndrome know that they're making their symptoms up and can be highly manipulative, but their behavior brings them no benefits at all. So we don't know why this happens. But in this case, her benefit was that she didn't have to be alone because she had her daughter there all the time.
Yeah, I guess it's that thing where their parents, it's their baby,
Mm-hmm. But still, like, I just can't imagine doing that.
It's like I could see Mexican parents doing that shit.
Right? Honestly, but
on God for real in the ranchos, dude. I feel like that shit's going on more than usual.
Probably
with their grandparents and their parents and then their kids.
Mexican families do, like, they live together forever. I mean.
Oh my God, bro! No.
Jesus, are you okay?
I'm trying to get out.
But blink twice if you need help, Jesus. Are you all right?
I need an adult, and then you just hear the door.
Right? You're like, maybe my mom's tricking me, and then the freaking camera just cuts, dude.
They just have you and Miles tied up.
Dude, they would because we found out.
Ah, that's wild. And then you were trying to help me escape the Matrix. No, I'm just kidding.
This episode could have ended badly. We could have taken a real turn.
Damn.
Or Jesus. Anyways, so we'll go back to Jesus not being abused, hopefully. If you are, dude, blink. Blink twice. I'm telling you, now's your only chance. He did it, you guys. He's blinking like 17 times. Okay, so we just talked about the 2011 thing where she went to this convention, right? And tries to run away with a man that she met, blah, blah, blah. So then we go forward to the next year. This is 2012, October. The guy that she ends up getting in trouble with, his name is Nicholas Godejan, I think is how you say it. I googled how to say it, and that's how they said. But they start talking, how, over like this Christian dating app.
Damn, and she hit me up on Christian Mingle. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, for real. So they met like that, and then they start like they went through their old chats, and they were doing like some fairy tale stuff of like X-rated messages, you know, like they did all kinds of, they were basically having phone sex and sexting and doing all this stuff. So then October 2014, through a secret Facebook account, Gypsy told one of her friends that she was in love with this guy, that same guy that I just told you about that she met. They had already been like in an online relationship for almost 3 years at this point.
Damn. He's like, you're my baby girl. He's like, no, he's good.
Talking like all day, every day. And she had to like secret talk to him. So if you watch the show, which you should really do because it's interesting because you can see kind of how it played out, which this obviously wasn't a real life, like you didn't get to see in real life, but you can kind of see how she told the story of it, like how she had to hide things and how she had to see like, oh, her mom was asleep so she can run to the computer, log in, send the message to him and like this stuff. So March 2015, this is when this Nick and Gypsy meet in real life for the first time ever. So that's a long time. That's like 4 years at this point of them just being in love online. So they really meet in real life at a movie theater.
Ooh.
Yes, Gypsy Rose. Keep in mind, she didn't actually have the stuff, like the diseases and the issues that Dee Dee said she had. But she also didn't get to go to school like a real kid would, you know. She didn't get to have friends. She did have the neighbor girl across the street, and they did change her name for the show. And so I don't know if she really wants to be talked about, so we'll just call her the neighbor girl, you know, because I'm pretty sure she's like completely traumatized by this. This girl was like a normal teenage girl, and she was into like boys and like normal friends drama and shit that you are in high school, right? So she would come over and like talk to Gypsy Rose about boys, and Gypsy Rose had questions. She was like, so what's it like kissing a boy, and what's it like, you know, what's all this stuff? But you got to keep in mind that Gypsy Rose she didn't actually have the mind of a 7-year-old, and because of any issues, if she did have those issues, it was just because her mom didn't ever let her talk to anyone or leave the house or go to school or watch certain things on TV or use the computer. Like she wasn't allowed to.
It was more like she didn't know how to socialize.
Yeah, she couldn't socialize appropriately. And then so when she goes on this first date with this Nick guy, she actually wore like her Cinderella costume, and he dressed as Prince Charming, because they always talked about like, oh, you're my Prince Charming, you're my Cinderella. So they actually dressed like this to this date, dude.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wait, and then it was back then too, right? It's not.
And this is back in 2015.
I mean, even seeing that like right now would be kind of wild, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it would, like, I don't know. All of it is just crazy.
I feel like it would be weird, but I'm like, someone won't do it.
Well, and so now let's talk about some of her interviews, right? You watch some of her interviews from when she's in court, especially. So if you watch from when she initially goes to court, which we haven't told the rest of the story, but this has to do with this part, is how she was like manipulated so much that she really, apparently anyways, didn't know her actual own age. She didn't have that social interaction. So she talks like a child. So in her court appearances and stuff, like they think, okay, well, she's in her 20s, right? She's been in prison for 8 years. She just gets out on the 28th of December of 2023. So at the beginning of her interview, she talks like a little girl, like a 10 or 11-year-old kid. Like she really has a super high pitched voice, like childish voice. She doesn't know how to like appropriately carry a conversation with someone. And so, but that wasn't truly because she had all these issues. It was because of the way she was sheltered, which is just like, honestly, it's super sad. Like that is really, really sad.
And it just how to say, fuck with her mind a lot. Imagine like you in your head, you're thinking, yeah, I'm 16, and then your mom's like, no, you're not 16, you're 12. It's like, what?
Yeah. So like she turns 18 and she's like, you're not 18, you're so crazy. She like gaslit the shit out of her. She's like, you're not 18, you're 14. Like you can't walk. Like you're so sick. You're so this. You're so that. You know. And eventually, at some point, when you're just like being told that, like you believe it. Like if you were 3 months old and then you got raised, and when you were 3, people would be like, "No, get in your wheelchair. You can't walk. You can't walk. You can't walk." And they never let you do it. Like I always wondered, how was she able to get up and really like run and walk and stuff? Because if you actually had been in a wheelchair all that time, your legs would be extremely weak. So she had to have been like secretly walking and working out her legs for like quite a while. Because
but I mean, if you look at those pictures, she's kind of scrawny.
well, she's definitely scrawny because she had to spend most of her time in a wheelchair pretending. But you can't just go from sitting in a wheelchair for 18 years and getting up and sprinting around. Like it's literally not possible. People who are actually paralyzed or people who have to spend time because they got injuries, like ask Braden when he had to be like bedridden and tried to do this stuff. It's not like he could just get up and run 3 months after not walking. Like that's not how it works. Like your muscles deteriorate, your joints deteriorate. Like there's a lot of bad stuff that happens. And so if you think of a kid who they might not have had injuries, but they literally sat almost stationary for all that time, never got to do
weak. Yeah,
and then they were given all these medications and like so you couldn't have been that strong. So that's where that also comes into play. But okay, so that was March 2015 when they went on the Prince Charming and Cinderella date, right? So June 9th, 2015. Here's where things kind of take a turn. This is what Gypsy Rose told them. That Nick, he had actually come to Missouri. He checked into a motel. And the same day, Dee Dee had actually taken Gypsy to like a doctor's appointment. Gypsy said that later that day, Nick came over to Dee Dee's house. Gypsy Rose herself gave him some gloves, a knife, and some duct tape, dude. Gypsy went and hid in the bathroom. Nick went to the mom's bedroom and just started fucking stabbing her. He stabbed her 17 times. Then they had sex at her house before they took a cab to that motel. Then they.
So you're telling me that this girl, the first boyfriend that she had, killed her mom. They just had sex, and they just dipped. They're like,
so I think at this point she knew that her mom was lying, and she had. If you watch the show, which I haven't watched it in a while, but I briefly remember her like acting out because she was like, "Yo, I can fucking walk. Like, what the fuck? Like, I can run. Like, I can leave. I'm not sick. What's going on, right?" And so at this point, she's just questioning it because when you're in a situation like that, she was also questioning her sanity too. At this point, you know, like, am I being crazy or am I not paralyzed? Like, what the fuck? She's told me I'm paralyzed forever. I'm on all these meds. My doctors say I'm paralyzed. So why? That's the other thing is like. If she was paralyzed and her doctors are doing all these exams, how are they not noticing that she's not paralyzed? Like, that's crazy to me. But so at this point, I think her mental state isn't good, obviously. So I'm sure she's like been emotionally abused and gaslit and was it gaslit or gaslighted? I don't know. This whole fucking her whole life. So she's questioning things. So then she meets this dude and then she's like telling him, you know how it is when you meet a partner, especially when you're young, like, and that's the only person she could trust at this point. She's like, I don't think I'm sick. My mom's abusing me. So she's telling him everything bad that's happening. She's saying, oh, she chained me to the bed. She did this. She did this and this and this, blah, blah, blah. And so she's like, we have to kill her and leave. And so she has admitted, like, she was part of the murder. She didn't do the murder herself, but she conspired and asked him to do it.
She supplied.
She supplied the weapons. She brought him there. She told him to do it. She asked him to do it. Like, she knew she was getting murdered this day. She wasn't, like, begging him not to. She wanted her mom to get killed. So she's like, here's the stuff. Go kill her. Because she was asleep in her room. So they killed her. Like, she woke up from her sleep just being killed. So he stabs her 17 times. They have sex. And then they get a cab and go to the motel. They spent, like, a few days. I'm not sure how many. Just they took a bus to Wisconsin, which is where Nick lived. Before making that trip, they actually, instead of bringing it with them, mailed the knife, like the murder weapon, to Wisconsin so that they didn't have to carry it on them.
Hey, not even gonna lie, that's hella clever though.
That is clever. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, that is a good move.
Okay, smart because like if you think about it, they're like, where's the murder weapon? It's like, we don't know.
We don't know, dude. So then, keep in mind, they took a few days. They just like loved it up, spent their time together, were happy doing all this shit. So I had said earlier that, like, you know, Dee Dee Blanchard wouldn't let Gypsy Rose, like, live her own life. She controlled everything. She got her phone, then would read through her phone, take her phone, break her computer. She had, like, all these settings on the computer so Gypsy couldn't do certain things. Well, they also shared a Facebook account. That way Gypsy Rose could get on Facebook, but she couldn't do anything that Dee Dee couldn't see. So after they killed her, so here it is. June 14th, 2015. This is what, 5 days later or something?
Yeah.
So a post on that shared Facebook said, that bitch is dead. That's what they posted on Facebook. And then some friends on Facebook were like, what does she mean by that? What do you mean?
Does she need a bowl of water? No, I'm just kidding.
Water, what's going on here? And so then, like, they alert authorities because they're like, that's not like them, right? Like, they share a Facebook, so who's dead? What is dead? If
Who's
someone
the
posted
bitch?
that,
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, what bitch is dead? Like, who? So they called the police, and then the cops go to her house, right? And then they obviously find Dee Dee stabbed to death at her house, dead for all that time.
Almost decapitated.
So here's the fishy part, though, because they go to their house, they find her dead body, and then everyone's like, oh my God, she has like a disabled daughter. Where is she? Like, she's in a wheelchair. Did they take her? Did they kill her? So at this point, they're not even thinking Gypsy Rose killed her. They're like, oh my God, the kid's been kidnapped. Like, the disabled daughter's been taken. So that's crazy. Like, they have
probably
no
thought
idea.
they were trying to get her ransom because of all this sickness, right?
This is the sus part is her wheelchair was still at the house, but Gypsy wasn't. So then the next day, a vigil is held for Dee Dee and Gypsy Rose because they assume Gypsy Rose is dead and just taken. So they have like this candlelight vigil. They have like all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then the investigators go onto the Facebook post and they track where it came from. Where did it come from, Jesus? It came from Nick's house in Wisconsin.
Oh my God! They didn't leave. Why didn't they leave the phone at the house?
I don't know, dude. Like, they knew, I think, when they posted it. I don't know. This might be like, even when you're being abused, which I've never been abused by someone with Munchausen syndrome or anything, but I have like been through an emotionally abusive situation. And it is very hard to explain. The brain works in very fucking weird ways. Because, like, they can go ahead and tell you, like, I hope you die. I think you're the ugliest, fattest, stupidest piece of shit ever. And then the next day they can be like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. And you're like, okay. And then you just, like, your brain tries to see the best in them. It just really doesn't understand. This is why people get Stockholm syndrome, is because your brain it communicates by releasing, like, chemicals and hormones, all that stuff. So you get mad, angry, sad, all these feelings. But then this part where she posted on the Facebook like days later, maybe it was like a call for help, like, oh my God, my mom's dead, but who knows. So that's why I always think about it, is like, if they didn't want to be caught so soon, why would they post about it? And it was probably her, and he was probably like, you're right, that bitch is dead, and he like posted. But anyways, so at the time, after they track where this post came from,
yeah,
Nick, who was 26 at the time, he actually surrendered himself to the authorities at this time. Like, so then police actually found Gypsy Rose, who, to their surprise, could fucking walk, dude. They're expecting this paralyzed, like, dragging yourself on the ground, super sick cancer patient who can only, like, comprehend things that a 7-year-old would, to be, like, unharmed and walking around. So imagine that, right? This guy is also
a shock, dude.
Yeah, they were shocked.
Imagine I told you. Imagine that I was in a wheelchair like the whole time you knew me, and then literally one time you stayed over at my house, and then you just see me walking around.
I mean, that would be weird to me.
You'd be like, Jesus, I carried you. Just kidding.
I carried you downstairs, dude. I broke my back.
I popped out my back, my discs. No, I'm just kidding.
My discs. Well, no, that's kind of like because investigators didn't know. They had no idea any of this stuff had been going on. So keep in mind, when all this murder stuff happens, the police don't know what we know. They don't know anything that I've just told you guys prior to this story of the police finding them. All they know is some disabled girl is missing. Her mom got murdered. Someone murdered them. And then they tracked the post back to this dude's house. And really, I think the only person who really even knew about this dude was that neighbor friend that she had. But I don't know how much she knew. I can't remember. I didn't do too much research into her.
Damn, bro. But even the neighbor friend, why didn't she do nothing?
Well, I don't think she realized how bad it was.
I
think she knew that, like, it was starting. But I think once Gypsy Rose truly was like, I am in danger. Something's not right. And like we were saying earlier, I don't think she was, like, stable enough to be like, this is going on, and, like, really come forward. There's an interview with her and it's not coming out till January, but I was able to get some, like, leaked quotes from it. And they said, like, if you could go back in time, what would you change? And she said that no one will ever hear her say that, like, I'm glad she's dead. and like she deserved it. She said, because I do regret everything that happened. And she said, I don't know if I would have gone to my aunt and uncle and told them the truth, like, hey, I'm not actually sick, she's faking. I don't know if I would have gone to the authorities. She said, I honestly don't know. She said, you think like basically, you know, she's had all this time to put into it, but she said, I honestly don't know what I would have done different. Like, it's a crazy situation. And back then, you know, she's had all this time in prison. She's made friends. She spent time with her dad, and her dad has a wife and a stepdaughter. And so she has all this family now, and she's met this other person that is who she's married to, which we'll talk about that in a minute. But she's had time to like meet people and learn a lot. I think about like just how to interact with someone. And so the brain and like the mindset and stuff that she has now is 100% different from when it was 8 years ago when she went to prison. Her decisions back then are completely different from what she'd make now. So she said, like, I don't know.
It's hard because, let's just say, maybe for her it wasn't like I'm killing my mom and this died. So maybe for her it was like I'm finally gaining my freedom.
Yeah, she's gaining her freedom. Because at that point you're kind of a prisoner.
The thing is, your mom probably like if you're emotionally manipulated that much,
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking that your mom will literally kill you.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
She's like, I've been chained up to the bed, you know, I've been beat up who knows how many times, and I'm afraid of her, even though, like you said, I might be bigger than her, but it's more like in the moment it'd be like facing the devil, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's how you would feel. And there's other things that she said too, because at first, so this Nick guy, he wasn't innocent before. He had charges of like, was it like indecent exposure or something like that? Like he had other charges already. So he had already been a criminal. And then when he was being interrogated, he told people like, I stabbed Dee Dee. It was me. But it was because Gypsy and I planned this murder together. She hid in the bathroom. She didn't do the stabbing, but like she was part of the plan, and that's why I did it. At first, Gypsy Rose, like, she did deny it. She's like, oh, I didn't. But they both ended up like being charged later. But then in 2016, like, you know, for her case, they were considering doing like an insanity plea.
Yeah.
So that she wouldn't have to go to prison. But they were like, you know what? No, we're not doing an insanity plea because you were literally abused. Like, you've been abused your whole life. If you are insane, it's not because you have some mental health disorder that you were born with. It's because like this lady has created it. So then July 2016, this is when Gypsy actually pleads guilty. I almost said guilty pleads Gypsy, but you knew what I meant. Gypsy pleads guilty. So Greene County prosecutor Dan Patterson made a deal with Gypsy. I'm reading this one directly because I don't want to get the names wrong. She pled guilty to second-degree murder. By doing that, she avoided having to do a full trial. So, I mean, she still had to go to court and everything. And I think it was still a big thing. She got sentenced to 10 years for second-degree murder. So she's been in Missouri that whole time. And then she got out on parole at 8 years. Well, I think she's behaved herself and done all that. So.
Man, it's crazy to think that, you know, maybe what she was going through, you know, we don't know. Like you said, she's a product of her environment.
Yeah.
She was abused, let's say, emotionally and mentally. Maybe not physically, right? But let's say you're just being told like you're sick, you're weak, you don't got this. You're scared of your mom, you know. You think if you walk too long, maybe you know how she said she has muscular whatever.
Yeah, dystrophy.
Dystrophy. You know, like you said, if you walk too much, you're gonna die. What you know, like she said, she knew if she could walk and stuff. But what if she's like, what if I start walking outside my house and I just drop? You know?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, you would believe it. Like this isn't like she just took a perfectly healthy 28-year-old female, whatever, and they just took them into a house and started lying. That is where she was born and raised. That's all she knew. That's what she was told. She went to the doctor thousands and thousands of times. And she was getting treated. They even put a permanent feeding tube in her because she said she couldn't swallow because of her issues. So she didn't even get to eat. She had a fucking feeding tube in, Jesus.
Oh my
like
God.
that's what all blows my mind is like these doctors should also be prosecuted at some point because like if you went to a new doctor and said, my daughter needs a feeding tube because she had one, yeah, you can see the scar and you can see that stuff. But okay, well let's test her. Let's see what exactly we need. But they weren't doing that. They're just putting fucking feeding tubes in and giving her cancer treatment.
They just trusted this lady. I think they just trusted this lady and her medical history.
Well, and the thing,
or her medical background, sorry.
And they should have done more exams. But then you also think of it as like there's not cases all the time. This isn't a super common thing where moms come in and be like, please put a feeding tube in my child. They're paralyzed and they do this and this and their teeth are rotting out from all the medicine and her head shaved because she has cancer. Like it's not like this is a common thing. So you also think like doctors probably don't question that because this lady knew. She said these are all the medications she's been on. This is what she needs to be on. We just moved. Our medical records were destroyed. Blah blah blah. So I could see him believing it. I'm not even kidding. Like they wouldn't put a fucking feeding tube in my cat or my bearded dragon without doing $10,000 worth of testing. So why are they doing this on a human child?
They just, I don't know, man. It feels like they let that little girl down.
Yeah.
The system that should have protected her. You know, that should have been like, you know, she's healthy, she's good. You know, it's probably the mom. It just failed her.
Then, so we'll just keep going a little bit in the trial because, yes, Gypsy Rose decided to plead guilty and like go to take the 10 years, right? Because they said you can get out early. This will be, she has nowhere else to go. What was she going to do? You know, I guess go live with her dad. He's been supportive and he has taken her side. And he said specifically that Dee Dee got what she was asking for. He said, you know, you guys might think like, hey, maybe Gypsy Rose murdered her or something. But you can't imprison someone their whole life and expect them to never bite back. That's what he said.
Damn, the cage tiger reference, dude.
Mm-hmm. So then, anyways, there's some quotes. This is November 2018. Gypsy Rose, she took the stand at Nicholas's murder trial, right? She said her relationship with Nick had to be kept a secret because basically her mom controlled every aspect of her life, right? She said she found out when she was 19 that she wasn't sick, but Gypsy Rose says, and she still swears by this, that she realized she wasn't sick, but she didn't realize like the extent of it until she had been arrested and like they put her in prison, you know, or in jail, and she didn't have to take medication. And then when all those meds start wearing off, like she's fine. She's just a normal, not sick person. And she said she truly didn't realize it until she got arrested. And
imagine for the first time in her life, she just felt she felt normal, like her body wasn't like telling you to throw up or making you congested or feeling dizzy. You're just like, wow, fucking getting the best sleep of your life.
Yeah, like isn't that weird? And so at this point, like once she realized like how sick she was, she has done a lot of interviews. So whoever listens to this, you can go and watch all of Gypsy Rose's interviews from like you can watch the trial stuff and see how her voice has changed and how her everything has changed. But she said that like she had multiple plans. She said like meet at the movies, start a relationship with this Nick guy, get pregnant eventually, and then murder Dee Dee was the last on her list. Like she wanted her mom to be okay with this and get pregnant and love this guy and marry this guy, but she knew her mom would never be okay with it. So apparently murder was the last thing on her list. But then she said the last thing she ever heard her mom do is as soon as the guy started stabbing her, Nicholas, she said that her mom was screaming out like her name, Gypsy's name, while she was just getting stabbed to death. That's kind of sad, to be honest, but like at the same time.
And that kind of is kind of ironic if you think about it. Imagine, let's say like I said, the caged tiger, the tiger that you've been abusing, you know,
kill the trainer,
barely feeding, and then you open the gate, and then it goes to attack the trainer, and then dead, yeah.
So hear this out, dude. November 2018. This is the same month that Gypsy obviously took the stand and said all that stuff. That like I had 3 different plans. Murder was the last, but we ended up having to do the murder. So this is that same month. The jury actually finds Nick guilty of first-degree murder for Dee Dee's death, right?
Yeah.
He got sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So he'll spend the rest of his life in there for this. There's no chance he's getting out unless something crazy happens and they have to redo a trial or mistrial or something crazy. But I think it's too. I don't even know what the statute of limitations is on that. But like he has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So I don't know. He at the trial, his like lawyers and stuff argued that he was motivated to kill her mom because he wanted to save Gypsy from all the abuse, and he said he was just like blindly in love with her, and that's why he did it. So this is a very tricky situation. Although if you look at the pictures, if you look at Nick's eyes, he do be looking freaking evil and crazy though.
Yeah, he does look like he'd kidnap someone.
He looked like he'd like murder all your puppies if you didn't want to go on a date with him or something. He looks crazy, so he probably belongs there. But so then Gypsy Rose has done like several interviews right since then. Here's a quote from her directly. The prison that I was living in before with my mom, it's like I couldn't walk, I couldn't eat, I couldn't have friends, I couldn't go outside, and play with friends or anything. Over here, I feel like I'm freer in prison than living with my mom because now I'm allowed to live like a normal person.
Oh my god, dude, she found freedom in prison. That's crazy.
That's sad, dude. So, despite all this, though, Gypsy Rose got married in prison, bro.
Damn, bro. That's sad music starts playing. Wish I could be you. Yeah.
You bet you wish I was you, huh? For real though, we're all out here living our lives, just not married. But it's fine. It's whatever. So, anyways, Gypsy.
You said that's so sad, bro. I'm sorry, dude.
Gypsy Rose marries this guy. His name is Ryan Scott Anderson. Guess how they met, Jesus?
How did they meet, bro?
I know you know, but that was the best way to break the news to these guys. They met. The way he tells the story isn't the way I like to tell the story. So
this is my version on the story.
I'll tell you my version. All right, so this guy, we'll call him Scott, Scott Anderson. They connected in 2020. This is during COVID. This is when the pandemic started. He was working at a hospital at the time. He had like 300 patients, but his hospital, his patient load dropped. Dude, he only had like 12 patients during COVID. His buddy there at work was like, "Oh, I'm gonna message freaking Joe Exotic from like Tiger King, I'm gonna." And he told his coworker, he was like, "Okay, if you message him, I'll be messaging a freaking Gypsy Rose. Like, I'll do it." Well, what did she do? She went ahead and wrote Joe Exotic a message. So he was like, "Fine, bro, I'll write her, dude. I'll write her." So he goes ahead and writes Gypsy Rose a letter. And to his surprise, she replies, dude. She's like, "Yo, what up?" So they start talking.
That was good, baby boy.
Yeah. And it's like, it kind of, in my mind, that's kind of like he like fangirled over some girl in prison, right? Wrote her a letter, and then it ended up just like working out, dude. So basically, all I have to say is, if Channing Tatum goes to prison, I'll be the first one writing him a letter. But for real. So
oh my god, Miranda.
He writes her a letter. They start like messaging back and forth. And then they start emailing back and forth because I guess some prisons allow it, but some prisons don't. I guess it probably just depends like what state you're in and like what security level of prison you're in. But they start emailing and like doing all that stuff. She doesn't meet him for the first time for like a while. I can't remember if it was 1 year or 2, but they end up meeting in person. And then like a couple months go by, or a couple years, I guess, because not until 2022, mid 2022, do they like get a marriage license. And they get married in prison. Yeah, they get a marriage license. He comes to the prison and they just have like a one-on-one wedding. They couldn't have anyone there. It was just them two.
Damn, and
the priest.
I just can't.
They get married in prison. So she's been married and they've been together since 2020. So.
And they're happy. No,
they're happy, but I mean, they haven't had a relationship yet. So here's what I gotta say is like, they've only had a marriage relation or a prison marriage, right? They have marriage relationship, prison / like thing. So they don't have to see each other often.
Yeah.
Just wait, Gypsy.
Oh.
So you gotta see if he does the fucking laundry, okay? If he helps you do the dishes. What if he puts his clothes on the floor next to the bed every night, dude, and he never cleans them up?
I ain't gonna say nothing, Miranda. I'm gonna keep quiet.
Yeah, well. Oh, who knows who's gonna have to raise who? This one's gonna be interesting. I hope they work out. I hope. But anyways, he picks her up from prison. So there's pictures. So there's pictures of him getting her from prison. Jesus is still laughing over there, and his mic is just too quiet to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. He took her to get shoes. He took her to do all this stuff. So they're 2 days deep. They're 2 days deep in their not prison marriage, right?
I'm sick of it.
But yeah, I hope she didn't play us too. I always think that. I always have to have like one little thing of mistrust in me, dude. I'm like, here's the sad story, but what if it's not? Like, I don't know.
You know what it is, Miranda? It's the Michael Jackson Thriller thing. at the end, he thinks it's not a monster, and then he turns back around and it's evil.
And
like,
it is.
And it is, and it's like, oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you feel, how you're feeling, Miranda, because it does feel like, maybe she did get away from everything, but what if,
What if she was in on it a little,
a little bit, yeah. What if I'm gonna play into it because I get to go to Disneyland, I get to meet them.
Yeehaw, brother.